Hi, welcome to the show. This is Minneapolis Expression. My name is Brandon Fertig. Today's guest is a local artist, visionary, a man with an opinion, and I'm happy to have him on. His name is Craig Stellmacher. Craig, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Craig Stellmacher. I grew up in Golden Valley. I've lived all over the city, so I actually think everything inside 494 is my neighborhood. It doesn't really have to be on my block to be part of my neighborhood. Now, I'm here partly as an artist, partly as a citizen, a thinker, but I also have a hat on today too. I'm also coming in as a move-on person.
All right. When we met, we talked a little bit about, or you introduced to me your project around the Twin Cities, where you're taking pictures of all the abandoned homes, and sort of, instead of just hearing about it on the news or seeing shots on it on Channel 4 or Channel 5 or whatever, you're going out and you're getting intimate portraits of every one of these abandoned homes. And I got to say that repeated, exposure and stimulus must really have an effect on the artist.
It's been emotional and intellectual, because I've grown to think about it differently than when I started. I had little opinion about it. I actually tried to stay neutral at the start.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I didn't think I had any kind of solution or any strong opinion. I actually wanted
what was happening with the foreclosures and stuff?
Right, okay. I really wanted to see it. But along the way, though, too, I can tell you that it affected me so emotionally that at times I had to take a break from it, because it hurts. After you look into dozens of living rooms that are abandoned and you see toys in the yard, you start to think about it differently this way, that I want you to not be able to close your eyes to them. Earlier, I gave you a wonderful metaphor from Heinrich von Kleist. After looking at Friedrich's painting, Monk by the Sea, he said that after he'd seen it the first time, it was like having his eyelids cut off. And now that's a kind of a terrible metaphor. People recoil from it. But it gets me, because I know what he meant. He was looking at his first Impressionist painting, and he would never look at them the same way afterwards. And I want that kind of view of things so that you can't forget it. Why
don't you start from the beginning?
Sure.
Let us know how you got the idea and about
it happens late one night on a lot of coffee. I am frustrated. I want something more than just the meetings to happen. And I decide...
The meetings of the Move On?
Right.
Yeah.
I want to do something. I want to contribute, but I don't really have a lot of money, and I'm bored with signing petitions. So one night it occurred to me I have to go photograph abandoned homes. Now I'm going to let everyone in on a secret here at the start. Photographers love abandoned homes. I've already shot 4 abandoned towns, and if I drove around the countryside for the last 30 years and I saw a farm, I'd back up and I might go back and spend 15, 20 minutes with the house. So I had a collection. There's a bunch of abandoned homes in my collection already, but I didn't have to drive anywhere to go shoot them this time.
Right.
I walked out my door and I found the first one 2 doors down.
You live in Minneapolis?
Yes, right off of Stevens Square.
Okay. And
it tells us an important lesson too about looking, which we haven't even mentioned yet, scratched on, is that most people don't look. 2 blocks from my house is an abandoned hospital. It's been empty nearly 10 years. And I drove by it over 200 times a year coming back from work. Throw in some trips to friends and stores, and I'm literally, in the last 5 years, drove by it 1,000 times, and I totally stopped seeing it as anything other than just something that went by.
Right. It's hard to stay fresh when you have a habitual lifestyle.
But on the first night walking, it became a totally different experience to me. I saw things I had never seen before.
Or you saw them differently than you ever noticed.
Right, and that's really why I could turn to anyone here today and say you could pick up a camera and you could start to look at the world in a whole new way. And it really lets you concentrate, because I would learn by photographing the hospital that there was IV drug abuse in the alcove. I could find syringes on the ground there. So from the first walk, I had really had my eyelids cut off to Minneapolis. And then I started to walk more, and I really have only done it by walking. You hardly ever shoot photographs from a moving car. And instead you can drive down Park in Portland from Richfield all year long to go to work and not notice in a single block that there's 5 abandoned homes in Portland Avenue or Park Avenue. And so I guess this really shows us that humans have such a great capacity to not see things. Well, I have to laugh nervously about it because it concerns me. It makes me very sad, really. Go ahead. What are you going to say, Brandon?
Well, when we have our daily routine, it allows, and our minds tend to do other things, whether we're on the phone or whether we're paying attention to the talk radio, or we're just probably daydreaming or listening to music.
Or the simmering fog effect. Or I have another wonderful metaphor for you. Albert Camus' The Plague. Now, I found this book right after college years ago, and I read it blind. Nobody's telling me what it means. I'm just going through Camus. And it's an amazing book, because right outside the door there's a plague, but everyone agrees that it's not happening. Now, at the time, my President Reagan was telling me that there wasn't AIDS. And I thought, wow, this book has sort of like a universal application. And after that book, I would go on to Lotman's 700-page biography of Camus and get a whole new understanding of the book, that he was writing about Nazism, of course. But it's then stunning again where you get to say, well, how did Nazism happen? And then I got to say, well, I think we did that again with all these abandoned homes. Here's the official list as about a month ago, Brandon, and there's nearly 1,000 abandoned homes here. And
Twin Cities or Minneapolis?
Minneapolis alone.
Minneapolis is 1,000 abandoned homes.
Roughly. Now, I got to say this, too. I think the list is so insufficient that it doesn't mean a thing, because this is just the official record. It means that the bank walked away, nobody's paying the bills, there's an orange sticker on the door. I had to say that it took years to happen. It didn't happen overnight. And at the same time, when I'm reading my Star Tribune for the last decade, I noticed that, say, the topic of making a brand new stadium for the Vikings or Twins here far outweighed this issue that was going on right in front of us. The plague was happening in front of us while we were talking about a new Twin stadium. And now we've gotten to a tipping point. I like that term. I like Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. Have you looked at that ever, Brandon? It's a wonderful book.
I've read about it, but I haven't read it.
It seems so obvious as you read it that you keep thinking, oh, amazing, amazing, but he puts it all together in one book in a beautiful synthetic work.
I know you mentioned his book. I know you mentioned his book on your site, and let's show that to the audience here. And this URL is long, but if you just go to Stellmacher.com, and I'll have it on the screen for the viewers at home, you then can link to
this comes up my main page, right?
Yeah, and it is his commentary and photographs of abandoned homes. In fact, these are the newest.
Right, I currently have 7 walks up, but I have about 3 more that I'm ready to post here. In fact, I've gone on other tangents which are sort of going in other directions. But we now have 7 walks, and along the way I've started to change what I look at and how I feel about it.
And the commentary along the right side is very thought-provoking. I really liked reading it, and of course the pictures speak for themselves. As you scroll
There's so many beautiful things. You can look at actually fabulously beautiful homes with 100-year woodwork on them, and then you can look at homes which appear to have no value at all that you think should have fallen over by now, and everything in between. I've also peered into many rooms, looking into the bedroom windows, looking into the living room windows, and you're looking at a little thing right now, Brandon, that catches my eye. Now, in the back behind of an abandoned home, I would find all that dog food or cat food left, and the home had been boarded up for months, but someone was trying to maintain animals in the neighborhood. Maybe they got to move without even taking their animals. I think this happens, Brandon, after looking at enough of them. I think people often leave quickly, and maybe they only have 1 car to leave in, or maybe they only have 1 day to leave in, and a lot of things are left. And they end up being abandoned, the mattresses, the toys, the little things that most people would probably want to take with them. So I often think some of these moves are rather sudden. I did notice one sticker, Brandon, one day while looking around, that the home was boarded up on the day after Christmas. And you'd have to say that probably wasn't real good for